So I'm a bit of a Geo connoisseur. I have all the Geo units in the game and I've built them all, and I was really hoping for the same pattern to continue with Chiori, but unfortunately it won't be. Despite her being a very strong unit and a worthwhile unit to pull, to me she is disappointing. This all has to do with her kit and her role in teams, which let's get into. Chiori's kit mainly revolves around her skill. It's an ability that will summon a doll when her skill is cast. This doll will passively attack enemies, and the damage dealt is AoE. A noteworthy thing of her skill is that if there's a Geo construct on the field, her skill will actually summon another doll, totaling to 2, which increases her damage output significantly, basically doubling it. This alone paints Chiori as a skill heavy unit, which she is, but I'm glad to say that her burst isn't useless. It's actually a good ability to perform. Her burst is another AoE attack that deals good damage to enemies. Chiori also has other unique mechanics, such as in the process of her skill, she can immediately be switched out for another unit, but this is the main gist of her kit. Though on paper this may not seem like it, but Chiori is a very strong unit. She's a sub DPS that deals a lot of damage, and as such she's very valuable. Sub DPSs deal great amounts of damage passively, meaning that they can help out all kinds of teams and can easily be slotted into them. But unlike other sub DPSs, Chiori has a big restriction, which limits her greatly. Remember the mechanic where Chiori summons another doll if there's a Geo construct? Well, because of this, Chiori is basically going to be locked to Geo teams, since she's much better in them than outside of them. Now this is not to say that you can't play her in non-Geo teams, but given that she'll be much weaker in them, you're likely better off to go with another sub DPS than her. Because of this mechanic, Chiori is very tied down to certain teams and units, this being double Geo teams or mono Geo. Chiori is meant for these teams specifically, and the implications for this are a bit problematic. First, let's go over the positive implications, and the first one is that Chiori does improve Geo teams, specifically mono Geo. Nobody really uses double Geo teams anymore, so I'll just glance over them, but the fact of the matter is that ever since Fontaine, mono Geo has weakened a good bit. In Fontaine, you've got incredibly strong DPSs that will have strong teams on their own, or you've got units that will give huge buffs to their teams, such that these team comps are much stronger and far more effective to use. Meanwhile, mono Geo has stayed the exact same since Inazuma, and the developer's answer to this is Chiori. By playing Chiori in mono Geo and dealing her high damage, mono Geo will be revitalized and rebalanced, since Chiori will allow for mono Geo to better align with the popular teams of today. Chiori will do this by either replacing Albedo or by being paired next to him. So in this aspect, she is good and worthwhile to pull, but even so, I'm still disappointed with her. Part of this is because of what we've just gone over. Her need of Geo constructs prevents her from being played with Navia and Noelle due to the fact that they don't have any Geo constructs. Therefore, Chiori's damage is much less, and these units don't even gain from Chiori and the benefits she brings. But my main gripe with her boils down to her lack of utility and lack of good change to Geo. See, Geo has a lot of problems, but you could say the main one is its lack of damage. Given that Geo doesn't have reactions, of which I gotta say was and still is a really dumb idea, you can create tons of reactions with Geo, but anyways, because of this, Geo has a low damage ceiling. So Geo is always at an inherent disadvantage when compared to the other elements of the game. So it's no surprise that mono Geo has fell off when you've got the likes of Neuvillette and Farina. The devs solved this by making Chiori deal high damage, which sure this helps the problem, but this isn't anything meaningful to Geo. Chiori's damage itself doesn't make Geo better, nor does it buff Geo units and make them stronger. Chiori's benefits to Geo teams is very superficial. Yes, it helps, but doesn't deal with the main problem. I, as well as many others I'm sure, expected Chiori to make some unique buffs to Geo that makes it better as an element. Say, the unit will buff Geo damage, almost like a second Goro, or the unit will apply Navia's crystallized buff to other Geo units, which honestly would have been great. Like Navia, all Geo units could universally make use of the one reaction that they have, and beyond a standpoint of making crystallized actually useful or purposeful, all Geo units would be massively improved by this. So Chiori doesn't make any unique or significant changes to Geo, and worse enough, she doesn't even enable the units with the ability to make unique or significant changes to Geo to be better applicable to Geo teams. What I mean by this mainly has to do with Farina. Farina is an amazing buffer, she gives massive buffs to your entire teams, and as such she's the perfect support for mono Geo teams next to Goro. But unfortunately, this combo falls apart. With Farina's buffs comes the need for a team-wide healer to maximize the buffs she gives out. And yes, there are team-wide healers that fulfill this role, and even some non-team-wide healers. But this creates another problem. Without 3 Geo units, Goro's buffs lessen, namely his crit damage buff. So for this to be solved, we need a team-wide Geo healer, of which there isn't. In fact, there isn't even a Geo healer in the game. I was hoping Chiori would be this since it fits so well. Team-wide healers are all the craze right now, seeing as that we don't have a Geo healer and there's a new Geo unit coming out. You know, you put 2 and 2 together, but unfortunately, this isn't the case. We're getting a stronger version of Albedo instead of getting a unit that actually makes Geo a better element and pushes its place in the meta. Rather than getting a new and stronger team or a new playstyle for Geo, we get an improvement to the same restrictions that hold Geo back. Overall, these are my thoughts on Chiori. Chiori is a strong unit that helps out Geo teams, she makes mono Geo a good bit better, and if you're still playing double Geo teams, she makes double Geo teams quite a good bit better too. But I still hold to the view that Chiori is disappointing since she doesn't help Geo in any big or any effective way, I would say. She isn't the unit or buff Geo needs right now, and honestly she's just a very safe unit, which is a huge letdown. She doesn't push any boundaries or do anything new, like we've seen with other Fontaine units. So I'm personally not going to be pulling for her, but I want to preface that because I'm not going to be pulling for her, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't. The problems that I've mentioned are the problems that I have, and the problem that those in late game have. This doesn't mean that those in early or mid game shouldn't pull for her. If you're looking for a character to pair with your Geo DPS, other than the Geo DPS being Navia, or if you're trying to build a mono Geo team, she is the best unit to help you with this. I already have Albedo, so I have no need for her, but you may need her and thus you should pull her. And again, I want to preface that though I may find her disappointing, this does not at all mean that Chiori is useless, that she's a horrible unit, or necessarily that she's bad. I've mentioned quite a few times that Chiori is good, and I honestly still hold to that view. It's just that she's good in her very specific niche. Anyhow, this is why I won't be pulling for Chiori. These are my thoughts on her, but I'd love to know, what do you guys think of her? Are you still going to be pulling for her, and if so, why? Or are you going to be saving up for another unit, say a new unit in the future, or a unit that is rerunning? Please let me know all these things in the comments. And with that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you all for watching, take care, and thank you all for watching once again.